So today I want to talk about dealing with social justice or injustice, social issues from a spiritual perspective. And I was thinking about avoiding this topic, but it's hard for me to honestly and consciously not talk about something that I have going on with me and going on in my life and something that I'm observing. So here in the United States, where I happen to reside, we're having a big lot of political upheaval this year, political and social upheaval with riots, with virus, a lot of concerns about the upcoming election and what's going to happen during it, if there's going to be violence in it, if there's going to be issues with cheating and judges and lawyers, if there's going to be a war in it, if what's going to happen, and there's lots of unrest. Gun sales are up tremendously. All kinds of things are going on. And so I figured just to touch on this topic from a spiritual perspective, there's a few ways I could look at this. I have to keep this balance sort of in my life. So from the human perspective, from the ego consciousness, or from living as a personality on earth, we don't want to push issues away. As living as an active and productive member of society, I have to be aware of what's going on. I have to focus on issues that happen in my environment. I have to hopefully take action to change them or to accept them or whatever that may be. So my first reaction to everything that's going on is, of course, selfish and self-centered. Like, how is this going to affect me? Am I going to be okay? Is this going to mess up my spiritual work? And then, of course, the extremes, like, what if I get killed? Then I got to start a new incarnation over and stuff like that. And then from a little broader perspective, realizing like, wow, this kind of stuff happens around the world all the time. It always has. And it gave me a little deeper look into the nature of suffering in the world, like whether it's an animal life, plant life, human beings that are oppressed, that starve, animals. I mean, we kill animals and fish. We kill 3 billion a day. So not counting insects or people that die or animals that die naturally, but just think, on this planet alone, 3 billion creatures murdered each day for humans to eat. So just the vast amount of suffering that does take place here, so why should I be exempt from it? And so I'm thinking about it from three perspectives. There's that perspective, the human perspective. There's the soul perspective, from which everything happens for a reason, from which everything is part of your karma, your curriculum. You signed up for it and you're using it to get free. So everything that comes into your life, whether it's on a personal level, whether it's on a nationwide level, a political level, is part of your karma that you're going through, and it's something that you're meant to work with. So from that soul perspective, it gives you a little different look at things. And from the God perspective, from the highest perspective outside of space and time, it's all just an illusion anyway, and nothing really matters. And it didn't matter in the first place. It never was. So, and I want to learn, and you have to learn if you want to be healthy spiritually, is to harmonize those three aspects of being. Because if I push one away, if I just say, well, it's all God, it's all an illusion anyway, none of it ever mattered, we're not going to exist in a few years anyway, what's the use? That's not the right way to live. That's aversion. I'm pushing away and denying my incarnation. Now, if I only live on the spiritual level, then I'm looking at it, this is all happens for a reason. It's part of my karma, this and that. What can I learn from this? Which is right and valid, but maybe I won't take any action, or maybe I'll be like, well, I'm above these things. So then also I have to live from my human perspective, from my ego, from being here now, which is, do I think I need to affect any change? Is there any social action I can take? Do I stay silent, or do I do something? And the bottom line is, you end up doing whatever you do or don't do, and whatever choice you make or don't make, you do it as consciously and aware as you can do it. So you take whatever things you can into consideration, you get as quiet and as simple and as inwardly drawn as you can, and then you do what you do. You make the act that you make, and it comes out how it comes out. There's so many other factors that come into play in it. You really have no idea if it's ending up to be for the better or for the worse. And so what I've been thinking a lot more lately, as I've just been going through life, as I'm sitting there, say I'm having some thoughts, or say I have a hard time with my mind, or I look at the state of affairs in the world and how crazy it is, or how good things are, or how beautiful it is, just saying to myself, wow, or like, far out, this is really how it is. You know, like if you get right now, you sit here and you get quiet and just think to yourself, wow, this is really how it is. You know, that perspective of kind of awe and wonder and almost horror just at the human predicament, or at the predicament of all life, and just the horrible beauty, you could call it, and just marveling at the fact that it just is how it is. You know, and that's a lot more what it is too, because for me, being a good person, or my idea of thinking I'm a good person, I don't like when there's injustice, when I see things are happening that I think are cheating, that I think are evil, that I think are wrong. You know, I naturally push against. I don't want that. I don't want what I think's evil to succeed. I want, you know, what I think's right and what I think's good to succeed. And that was a hard one for me to look at, because then I see things across the world that happen all the time where the people involved didn't think the right thing was happening. You know, people in these different countries or different regions that they knew what was happening to them was right, wrong, or unjust, and it happened to them anyway. So, you know, that's an interesting perspective, because also I have to accept my limited abilities and that things happen how they happen, and hold the God perspective too, that everything's perfect and happens for a reason and it unfolds as it's supposed to. But also remember that your action and what you do is also a part of that perfect unfolding. Me speaking right now is also a part of that perfect unfolding. You listening and what you're about to do after you listen to this is also a part of that perfect unfolding. So you're not separate from it. And what it kind of made me think of is there's a Ram Dass talk where he talks about how he spent his earlier spiritual days bringing people from two to one, from duality into oneness, into being with God. And then later he helped people go from one back into two, to being grounded in this world, grounded in reality, such as he would say you can get real high, but you don't want to forget your address. And so keeping their grounding on this plane of reality. And one of the examples he uses is there's a family and they ask their daughter Sunflower to do the dishes, and Sunflower says, oh, but we're all one. And they're like, well, that may be true, we are all one, but you still have to do the dishes. And so he says, what I've been learning is how to do the dishes and be with God, or how to do the dishes as play. And what that means is basically this: to do the dishes and be with God, or if you looked at it from like a Zen Buddhist perspective, it would be to just do the dishes and be there now, to be conscious. So what it means is whatever act I do, or whatever situation I find myself in, do it as consciously and as presently as I can. So washing the dishes in themselves, and there's actually a Thich Nhat Hanh writing a poem he did about this as well, or a saying, is a great spiritual practice, washing the dishes in themselves, if you can do it consciously, presently, and aware, not thinking about the future, not going unconscious because you don't want to wash the dishes, but just washing them as they are. So whatever I do, really the best thing I can do from being here now is just doing my next act as honestly and as consciously as I can. Another way of looking at it is being with God while doing it, being with the present moment, or remembering God, or repeating a name of God. And then another way you could say that also is doing it as play, as Leela, which is the divine play of the universe. So looking at whatever I do as play, as part of the dance, even though it doesn't always seem like it, and especially if there's a lot of insecurity in me and a lot of fear and uncertainty, and I don't think things are going how they should be, then it's very tough to view that as God's play from a broader perspective. You know, it's really easy to get caught in it, and there's nothing wrong with getting caught in it, because that's part of the play too. But it's about balancing these different planes, and so learning to do the dishes and be with God simultaneously, learning to do whatever I do just as part of the way of things, as part of the harmony of the universe. And so being there and being honest and being present and being aware means that I'm going to feel I have to feel what I feel. I have to feel the peace and joy that I feel. I also have to feel the pain and discomfort and disharmony that I feel. And it makes you, looking at this and what I started off talking this video about, the social perspective and justice overall, there's two things I want to focus on. One is Kali Yuga, which in Hinduism is the Yuga that we're in, and their time periods in which greater and greater decay of the universe occurs, and then they start over. So there's four, and we're actually in Kali Yuga, which is the lowest and last time period. We're 7,000 years in, and it's 432,000 years. There's a bull. Shiva has a bull, the Hindu god. In the Kali Yuga, Shiva's bull stands only on one leg because the universe is it's off balance. There's lots of delusion, there's lots of decay, there's lots of violence, there's lots of suffering. Lifespans are a lot shorter, people aren't as pure. It's much different than previous yugas, which I'm not going to go into here. But that perspective of that is interesting because it's like, as personal as my life situation is to me, I got to understand it in this bigger context of things. And then if you look at what the Buddha was teaching in the first place, was that all form, the entire material world and the heavens and everything, that suffering is inherent in all of it for those very reasons. He was teaching that suffering is inherent in all of it because of that, because it's the ever-changing nature of phenomenon, and that if you attach or cling to anything in any way on any plane of reality, suffering is inherent. And you suffer because of your attachments, and you suffer because you're clinging as a mind, and because the attachments to the various life circumstances, so that there is birth and dying, which is suffering, there's sickness, which is suffering, there's old age, which is suffering, there's catastrophe, which is suffering, there's getting things that you don't want, which is suffering, there's losing things that you want, things that you have, comfortable life circumstances, that is suffering. Even getting what you want, if you're attached to it, is suffering, because it's in time, and everything in time decays and you're going to lose it anyway. So the trick is in time, and there's in a version of the Ramayana, the Valmiki version, time is personified. So time manifests as a being in a couple parts in that poem. And there's a part where time is talking to Ram, who is God and is the king, and the door is locked and nobody can enter or they have to die. That was what they set up. So Lakshman, who's Ram's brother, because a sage came and was really mad and told him he had to go talk to Ram, he enters. And that's Ram's brother, his favorite brother, and they've been together for, tens of thousands of years. They've been ruling Earth for 11,000 years, or their area of Earth. And he's like, Lakshman, you have to die for this. And he looks at time, and then him and time get into this dialogue, and time says, not to worry. Time's like, I take away everything that I've given, but no more than that. So time cannot take away things that time doesn't give, which is your soul essence, which is the real you. Things spiritual and things eternal, time can't take away. So there's a security found in that. So time is the great destroyer, but it falls within the illusion. So we have to basically remember that no matter what we do, it's just happening on so many planes of reality, and we don't like feeling uncomfortable. I don't like feeling uncomfortable. I would prefer to feel peaceful and loving and joyous all the time, and not be worried about the fate of the nation, and not, whatever, but that's not the case. And that's just from me here, that I think that should be the case. But I know from when I'm looking into my soul that doesn't have to be the case, and I learn more often when it's not the case. And so I also have to remember throughout this that in reality, pain is just a different sensation, and it could be stronger than not at times. And pain of the mind, especially what we're talking about here, it's just another mind moment. It's just another part of the racing mind, and it just shows me how unsatisfactory it is to cling solely to material things, to pleasures and their opposites in pain, or to cling to pleasure and try to avoid pain, because the ever-changing nature of the mind. And so I try not to run from when I feel afraid or angry or uncomfortable or uncertain or unsure. Those are the hard feelings to feel. I'd rather It's easy when I feel joyful and blissful and serene and happy. But I don't want to run away from them, because that's aversion, and that keeps me stuck. I want to be with things as they are. I want to be able to be here now. And when I'm here now, that's when I could take the most conscious action that I can, and I could serve beings the best I can. And I realize that there's so much suffering in the world, and I don't know where to start doing it. But the more conscious I am and the healthier I am as a being, I could do my little part to help the world. I could do my little part to bring a little bit more consciousness somewhere, to make somebody smile a little bit, and I don't know the outcome and how the outcome's supposed to be. So if things go, I pray for things to go really good. It's my intentions that things will go really good. I hope and understand that, and if they don't go really good, then that's just as interesting too. Then, so far out, then that's the way it is. So basically, I guess for me, it's becoming a work on myself. Like, I work on myself in order to help the universe and help others, and by helping others and helping the universe, I work on I get better myself. So it's a interrelated process, because we're all connected. And it does pain me that there is so much suffering in the world and on earth. And it's easy when when I was in active addiction, drug addiction and violence, and that I was bringing a lot of pain to earth, in the limited aspect that I was able to do. And so it's easy for me to think, how could people be so deluded? Why do we have this? Why isn't there just peace? Why don't we take a week's military budget from the entire earth, which would feed all the starving people on earth for a year? Why don't we do those things? Why do we kill? Why, when there's substitutes for meat and cheese, or meat and fish and stuff like that, why do we kill 3 billion animals a day, which causes mass amounts of deforestation? Why do we cut down the Amazon at the insane rates that we cut down the Amazon rainforest? But I'm a part of this earth and this organism. Like, I'm part of the organism that does that shit. Like, I'm just as responsible for it as anybody else is. I'm that too. But we just work on helping each other become more conscious, and ultimately bring more love and joy, and become more free. And remember the 3 aspects: do what I can as a human, remember what my curriculum is as a soul, and remember that it's all a play and it's all an illusion from the God perspective anyway. And still go about and do the dishes. Still go about and do the dishes and be with God. Be present. Be aware. Be here now while I do my daily acts as best that I can. And I'll slip into unconsciousness all the time, every day, over and over. But, I come out of it. I laugh when I get caught. I have to keep a humorous perspective as well. Not a surface level humor, but a cosmic spiritual humor to the whole predicament that I find myself in the first place. And have more compassion for other beings of other life forms, whatever. Like, what I've been real big on lately is not pushing things away, like seeing these animals that we slaughter, or these spiders and bugs that people kill, like, whatever it is, not pretending that it doesn't happen, not pushing away that people starve to death every day by the hundreds, probably the thousands, in Africa and war-torn countries. Not pushing that away, but seeing it and understanding it. And even if I can't do anything about it at the moment, or I could do very little about it, or I could just donate a little bit, being aware of part of that, not pretending that it doesn't exist, not pretending. What happened to me this year is I've gotten way more involved in politics than I've ever been, and I get a lot of backlash because I make this YouTube channel. So people are like, how could you support what you support and like who you like and make spiritual videos? And to me, there is no contradiction. To me, that is my truth. But I used to get, at first I got a little like, I didn't like when people would say that. That would hurt me. It would hurt my ego, and I'd be like, oh shit, get embarrassed or whatever. And now I understand that's not how it is, because part of living this is like, I live on this human plane too, and I believe in what I believe in, and I see things the way that I see things, and of course I think the way I see things is right. And I know my own inner intentions and reason for believing the things I believe and seeing the things I believe, and I feel that they're just and loving, and I don't wish pain upon other beings, and I'm not supportive of any kind of racist or bigotry or intolerance or violence or illegal activity or anything of the sort. So I stand on what I stand on, and I also remember at the same time that it's just passing show. Yeah, in a billion years it won't matter, but also it matters now. And it could be said that anything that happens at one point in space time happens and extends outward forever. So I do have to be really careful and conscious about my acts, about right speech, right action, right effort, about the way I relate to beings, the way I talk with people, how much consciousness I bring. Because as I bring more consciousness to any act, it brings more consciousness to the universe as a whole. So actually, for the first time, I never said this in a video before, but I'm grateful I needed to talk that out and process it. And with my fear, and I had trouble sleeping last night because of my fears and insecurities and racing mind about the situations I'm sort of alluding to. So I needed to process that and talk about that in this video. So I'm grateful to you all, anyone viewing this as well, because without that, I wouldn't have got that chance to do this. So it frees me too, and I'm grateful for that.